Welcome to episode 4 of How It All Began. I am Chris, also known as the Vegan Sheepdog. And, this episode is going to be different, and I get to do something I usually don't get to do, which is do an interview face to face. So I get to spend some time with Randie Gentry. Randie is the founder of the Cows Come Home Farm Sanctuary in Talbot, Tennessee. I really appreciate her kindness and compassion for animals. I appreciate her determination in life, and we're going to talk about some of her story and her journey. And my wife and I just love and adore Randie, and we really appreciate
Aw.
you. And it just happens to be that we come down to Morristown, Tennessee, about once a year for a family reunion on my wife's side of her family, and that just happens to be about 15 minutes from Cows Come Home. So it works out well that we get to come down, hang out with Randie, hang out with the Moose, hang out with Rick, and we're gonna have a great conversation. And Randie's gonna share her story. And unfortunately, not all stories are sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes there are things that we have to go through that aren't pleasant, but it's important to talk about, and we're going to talk about some of those things today. So, Randie, first off, thank you for opening up your home to us, allowing us to come in. Anytime we're down here, you treat us like family, and we just really appreciate you and all that you do, not just for us, but for the animals and just who you are. So thank you very much for sitting down with us today.
You are so welcome, and you know that you are welcome here anytime. And it's so weird that we met through a mutual friend because they needed computer help.
Yeah.
And now you're like 15 minutes away at least once a year, and you get to come visit and hang out with the cows and come to know your family. And so this is like an annual family reunion.
Yes.
that we're included in. So it's kind of cool.
We absolutely love it, and anytime we get to come down, and we'd love to come down more often. It's just it's hard with kids and life and work, but this year we actually got to come down for a little over a week, which is nice. So that way we're not cramped into a tight schedule, but we're going to get to see some other friends in Knoxville. We're going to see David and Becky Mink over in Knoxville on Friday, so looking forward to that. It's just about relaxing and having some fun, and we get to see some cows while we're here too.
Yeah. The family comes back and you get to hang out with the cows.
Yes. So Randie, we're here in Talbot, Tennessee, which is about 40 minutes outside of Knoxville,
Mm-hmm.
for folks who may not be familiar. So is this technically considered East Tennessee then?
Yes.
Or we got to go farther?
This is East Tennessee.
Okay. So, you hear songs from people like Morgan Wallen talking about East Tennessee, and it's cool because he even talks about Jefferson City.
Really?
Yes, in one of his latest songs, he talks about he met a girl from Jefferson City, and his mom would be happy because she is keeping mom straight and narrow. So.
Wow, that's really right next door.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we were out that way earlier today, but it's always funny when you hear stuff like that in a song, and it comes up, and it's just, I don't know, my OCD or ADHD, one of the two goes off, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right.
That's
So,
a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We always enjoy coming down. You're always so gracious to us, and we really appreciate you. All of our kids, we go out in the field and we hug on the cows, and just last year you had an opportunity to submit a picture for the Big Island Farm Sanctuary for a calendar that they did, and you chose a picture of Henry, which Henry is my youngest son, who is 7. He was 6 at the time. Hugging April, and he just.
That was a great picture. That was a great moment, though.
Yes.
That was just that whole thing of him, like, very tentatively.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to touch a cow. I don't want to be on the side of the cow.
No.
I'll look at a cow, and then before you know it, he's just like, full in.
Well,
that was great.
Before we got here, he said, I don't want to go out in the field with the cows this year, and we don't know why, because he enjoyed himself last year. And then I think it was just, you just kind of talked to him and walked him around, and April was laying there, and he saw all of us hugging and loving on the cows, and he's like, I can do that. And we captured that moment of him hugging April, and
That was great.
that was awesome.
It was.
And so it's just, I don't know, it's just really cool.
It was.
So originally, though, you're not from Tennessee. You weren't born here, you weren't raised here, but you grew up in California, which is a little different life than living out in the middle of Talbot, Tennessee. For me, when I see things, so driving up here, I see the development changing just down the road. And things always change, and some things are good and some things aren't so good. when I see developments like that, especially this close to where you guys are,
I know.
it's heartbreaking.
I know. I was waiting for you to say something about that.
Rick and I talked
really
about
is
it.
Painful. It is. And it's ugly.
Well, yeah, and those houses, they're like these cookie cutter every, like, you know.
I know, right down the street from closing in.
We noticed that the first night when we went to grab something to eat when we got in town. And, things don't change, but some things do. So today we were in Ingles, which is, would you say Ingles is the biggest grocery store down here in the area?
In this area, there are Kroger and
Okay.
Publix around, but not in this little space that you're going to run into right here.
So, we're in Morristown, Tennessee. We're in Ingles, and they had every Beyond Burger, every Beyond product, every Impossible product, every just about anything that we would find up home in Dayton, Ohio. We found that and, plentiful, available, even down here in, East Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So, some change is good.
It is.
But it's tough when you see developments going up like that. That's taking up old farms. And Rick was telling me who owned what and how that came to be. And so it's just, I'm one that I like seeing farms stay farms and farmland.
Yes.
Progress is sometimes good, but sometimes it's hard when you see stuff like that. So how do you feel that's going to change things just in general in the general area? I mean, your street is just so quiet. There's the people that drive back here, the people that live back here, and that may not always be the case now. I hate seeing change like that sometimes.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, but I'm from Los Angeles, so I'm used to stuff building up constantly all around, and I'm as much a city girl, if not more, than I am a farm girl.
You get out there with those cows, and you fit right. You couldn't fool anyone that you used to be a city girl. You get right out there with them.
I could plunk in the city, and I'd be good there as well. But I'd miss the cow, so I'd have to come back. But yeah, so I'm comfortable either way.
Yeah.
But the progress is the progress seems to be the same kind. It's these cookie cutter houses, and the developers are buying up all the farmland, all of it. They're making people instantly rich, and putting up. They're like I think 4,000. What did I keep you spelling? Like 4,000 apartments going on right down the street, and there's this development of they took a few acres and they're putting 62 huge cookie cutter homes right next to one another, like that I could walk to right down here. And that's going to be a lot of people that, we kind of are concerned about it because the farm was here before this was a neighborhood.
Sure.
And so there were cattle here before there were all these people here.
Yeah.
And, so you everybody around. And now you see people walking through, and now we're going to see a whole lot more people walking through.
Yeah.
And, you do have to worry about it because part of their pasture is right on the street that could become a lot busier street. And people are curious, and people want to feed them and whatever. And so we don't have signage out about this being a sanctuary because we just don't welcome people to wander in here. And
well, the other thing in this part of the country, you also are up against a different mindset. You've got neighbors that raise cows for food. You've got neighbors that they don't comprehend the idea of rescuing these sentient beings and giving them a home and a sanctuary to live out their days. They haven't made that connection, and they're not there, and so it's kind of hard because of where you guys are. But it's I think it's so powerful because of where you guys are, though, too.
It really is.
It really, like, it's one of those things. I'm a little different in that I would want to be out there and letting people know what we do here, but unfortunately that puts the cows at risk. So it's it's tough.
It is tough. It is tough, and as a matter of fact, several of them. We've got we've got like a homesteader across here. Did you see them?
No, I did not.
They've got little baby lambs, goats, baby longhorns, all sorts of little baby Holstein, not Herefords. They
Hmm.
had some Holsteins, um, and chickens, turkeys, everything that you can tap into. And so that's one. But then next to him is a guy that just built a place there and decided to become. Now he's going to raise cattle and sell them for beef. And next to him, that guy does it. And then just over the hill,
Yeah.
we've got the guy that has had an Angus ranch for forever and ever. So a lot of these people have joined together and are working on starting a slaughterhouse.
Are they really?
So it's not just they're selling cows and we're hearing about, we're hearing
Yeah.
the moms crying and
Mhm.
when the neighbor is selling a cow or when they've got somebody in a calf or when somebody's got somebody in a barn to take off, away from their mom. Now you have that. So it's like it's not just once removed. It's like, okay, you're all the way removed if you want to own a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
You just don't care.
Wow.
So we have that, and you have to be extra careful because anytime one of our guys pass away here,
Yeah.
we have to call one of them to come and help bury him, and that is painful. That is painful beyond painful. If I could beg for a backhoe, I would. I would beg somebody to please help us get a backhoe.
Sure.
Because that seems to be so. That's like the last indignity. That's like I can't even tell you. It brings enormous pain every time I have to do that.
That's hard because the things that they're doing. Well, it's great that they're neighbors and helping you. You know what they're doing and the other things they're using that backhoe for. That's hard, but
It is hard.
you are this little gem in this little area that, and unfortunately, it's not a little area. Lots of areas like rural Tennessee are this way, and that people haven't made that connection. They're still abusing animals and still, see them as property and see them as price tags for things. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we do what we do to continue to encourage and inspire and educate people to look at animals differently, to see them for the sentient beings they are. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of, my wife she's always on me. She says, you don't have ducks, you don't have rows, you have squirrels, and they're all over the place. So we're going to jump around a little bit. But since we're talking about that, so you talked about neighbors that are wanting to go together and create a slaughterhouse, a slaughter facility. Or you said that you can hear animals that are in a neighbor's barn that is being separated from their mother, waiting to be taken someplace else. That's kind of, to me, that's a really important story when we start talking about Rick and the mayor.
Yeah.
That story, like the mayor, when I come out here, he's one of the first ones I want to see. You know what? If you would share what the mayor means to this farm, to this sanctuary, and how it changed even Rick's perspective and in this whole thing.
Well, Rick always had, you've talked to him enough to know, he's always had a soft spot. It was difficult for him. I think he struggled with it for most of the time that he was in this with his dad for nearly 50 years. Where he's told me, and he's probably told you, that he would drop them off and, pat them on the back and say, don't worry, it's going to be all right. Drop them off at the stock barn. And he said he would have a tear in his eye when he'd get back to the truck, but he's a big strong guy and you don't cry for your dad. Who wasn't really into animals being sentient beings or recognizing them as someone that had emotions and this connection between a mother and a baby, and there was not that. It just wasn't convenient. It didn't fit the plan, and that wasn't going to happen. So Rick really struggled with it most of his life, and I guess when they were maybe 18 months old, these guys would get put in the barn and loaded in a trailer and taken off. But he loved them. He'd go out and hug them, play with
Yeah.
them, hang out with them, lay with them out in the field. People go by and they think Rick's dead. And he's just laying in the middle of the field, all sprawled out with a cow laying on top of him or a calf or something. So he had put this little guy up, this little blondish, tannish guy. He put him in the barn, and he was going to take him to market or to the stock barn. And he really kind of liked him. He had the soft spot for him, but he kept that separation thing.
Sure.
So he went back the trailer up like he always did, and I had recently told him, because I had moved into this house and I could hear his mother screaming outside, so I'd have to keep all my windows closed and everything. And I called him and said, "This got to stop on this side. I can't deal with it." So anyway, that's about the time he went in and was going to load this little guy up. And the mayor just sort of walked over to him and, just buried his head. He wasn't the mayor then, but he just buried his head in Rick's side and just held it there. He wasn't afraid. He was just like, he trusted this human and had no idea what betrayal was. He just didn't. So he went to this human that he thought of as friendly and caring and had no reason not to trust him. And it did something to Rick that he had done before, but this time he was ready to act on it.
Yeah.
And Rick felt like the little guy was saying, just give me a chance. And he just opened the barn door and said, go, just go. And that was like, that broke the logjam. and it wasn't long after that he was sitting here in my kitchen and he's like, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling with this and I don't know how much longer I can do it. I thought the best he would do would be get out of it and sell everybody and just stop
And just be
this
done.
whole mess.
Yeah.
But because he loved them, I thought, wait a minute, this is a moment I've been waiting for. I think I'm hearing what I always wanted to hear.
Yes.
And so just standing right here, and he was sitting there, and I'm just like, well, I could start a sanctuary, but you've got to give them all to me. The bulls, the mothers, the babies, everybody, you have to give them all to the sanctuary. You have to donate them all. I'm not paying for them. You have to give them all. And he's like, okay.
Wow.
And then it was just that simple. That's how simple this whole transaction was. And then he went to work and I went to work, and I think I was numb. And I'm numb now just thinking about it. I've got chills just thinking about it. It was that simple. I could start a sanctuary. And that's just what happened.
So that's basically how Cows Come Home came to be?
Yes, that's what happened. So the mayor was very instrumental in that. I had over time been I got kind of close to this one, so that one's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And you're not selling hurt children. And that one, is named this now. And this one does this that's kind of cool. And, started like, you've got to notice their emotions and their special characteristics that you've been separating yourself from and been trying to stay blind to that you're not. And so it just whittled away. So little by little, more of them were staying anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like,
So at that point, like, why not?
Let's just let them all. Yeah, let's just let them all go. So that's kind of what happened.
That's one of my favorite stories, especially evolving around Rick and his kind of shift in that perspective. But he's always had that. He's just swallowed it because of his dad and because of the way he was raised, and I can relate to that. But how tall is Rick? 6'3", 6'4"? So for folks who may not understand this, Rick is a 6'4" Tennessee country boy through and through, and just a giant of a man, and just a big at heart. And to see him laying out in this field with his cows now is just awesome to see. And like he says, there ain't nothing better than just lay out there and take a nap, lean up against them, talk to them, and to have that freedom to actually love those cows now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you guys had You guys had one drinking a bowl of silk in the kitchen here. So he's gone from hauling cows to the sale barn to feeding them and taking care of them and nurturing them in the house.
Yeah.
Nobody would have thought that would have happened.
Yeah, tube feeding him, every morning before work, he's got this little calf between his legs and trying to give a little tube, not the rigid big tube, but the little tube, get it down his throat. And Lou was biting it, milk's going all over the walls, and Rick is, not happy about that because every morning he goes to work smelling like, formula at the time.
Yeah.
What we didn't realize is that Lou didn't like
the formula,
animal milk. He didn't like any animal milk. So that's why he was fighting it. He just didn't like animal milk. So like, he's gonna die, I've got to do something. So when he was about 5.5 weeks old, we had to just stop tube feeding him because he wasn't taking it.
Yeah.
And I had still milk in the refrigerator and I poured a bowl of it and he just dove in.
That picture, like, I'll never forget that picture.
I know, isn't it awesome?
Yeah, well, it's awesome because it's on the checkered floor, and it's like just, who has a cow in their kitchen, and he's drinking silk, which is hilarious. So it's just one of those things. I wish someone at Silk would. I know we've shared it out. We should do that again. We should try to get that to someone at Silk. Be like, even cows like it better than milk. So
yeah, even baby cows don't need it.
That's
he didn't.
That's just that's another one of those stories here that happens because you're here. Had you not been here, that story, that transformation for Rick probably never would have happened. And all of these individuals that call home here would have found a different home. So you talked about how each of them have their own personality, how each of them have different characteristics and things they do. And a few years ago, you had one of the cows pass away, and you had shared a story with everyone about how they kind of lined up to say goodbye. For folks who have not been around cows, for folks who haven't seen that personality side of a cow or experienced that, will you kind of tell folks what you guys saw at the passing of a member of your family here and what the cows did in response to that?
Sure. This was shortly after they were declared residents of the sanctuary. This is probably like days later. And by then, the mayor had grown up to be, at one point he'd grown up to be a pretty good sized boy and he was becoming a dad. And Rick was looking for a calf that looked a lot like the mayor, and because he had the same temperament as the mayor, same sweet temperament, cuddly, trusting. He was just a wonderful little guy. And Rick called me, he couldn't find him anywhere. So he started driving the fence and called me, and he said he's up here in the fence line, and it looks like he's been pushed or shoved or whatever into some trees that he was wrapped one way and then the other way, and he wasn't going to make it. He had internal injuries, and when big cows all get together and they're shoving one another around and everything, and that's why we're very careful when visitors come and want to feed apples or something over a fence. There are so many in this herd that you can't do that because they slam into one another and they push each other into fences and somebody's going to get hurt. So we have to be really careful. So that's kind of what was going on. Is they must have been into something.
Right.
And so we went up there, and this little calf was obviously not going to make it. He was hurt. So Rick called the vet, and he went to the house to get a chainsaw so we could start cutting these trees and maybe free his legs or free something so we could kind of feel if there was anything that we could do while we waited for the vet. And it just became really obvious that maybe even his neck was broken. So it was devastating, and I hadn't been super involved with cows because I had just like that wall up that I can't help them and I can't, So anyway, so I'm waiting in the fence line with this little guy, and here come all the cows. 30, 37 of them maybe at the time. And each one comes up, and the little guy is laying on the ground with his head laying, resting on the ground. And each one came up and touched noses with him. And it was like they're saying their goodbyes, but they're in a line. They came from the bottom of the hill in a line and standing there and saying their goodbyes. I'd seen it before. It's a common thing. So it's one after the other, after the other, after the other. And the last one in line was the mayor, who was his dad. And the mayor held his head down to him and just held it there for the longest time. And, the vet was coming, and I had to ask him to move back. And he just stayed there for the longest time, cheek to cheek with his little boy. And I finally just, buddy, you got to move back.
Yeah.
And he moved back maybe a foot and looked down at him, and a tear started rolling out of the little cow. He wasn't even little at that point. He was, probably 500 pounds or so. And the mayor just stood there and kind of looked at his son. And, this is a ritual that we go to.
Yeah.
We go to a hospital if somebody we love is going to pass away or is hurting or is really ill or whatever they're going through. And these guys do the same thing. I've seen it over and over. And it's usually the head of the family that is the last one. And he moves everybody along. And okay, I have to have my time with them. I've seen it before, and it happened again. But boy, that was something. It's something they do, and there were other people here. Actually, one of the neighbors, that's now a neighbor that raises cattle, was helping us hold the trees back. And I looked up at him. I'm like, "Did you just watch this? Are you watching this?" Yeah. And there's just sort of like a blank look on their face, because I don't know how anybody could witness what happened in that fence line.
How could you not see and feel that?
And go on to do that. I don't understand that. So, but that's what we deal with every day, right?
Yeah. I think that's part of the disconnect.
It is.
People separate them from being, just like your dog. Like, most people can relate to losing a dog or a cat, but they can't relate to losing a cow. People who raise cows for profit, that's how they see it. They don't see it as that's an individual. They don't see it as the mayor. They don't see it as Louis. They don't see it as, one of these family members. But I just don't. I know that disconnect is very powerful, but I just don't. I don't see how standing there, how you could witness that and see what these cows are doing to say goodbye to a member of their family, and not even see it, and then go on to start your own quote unquote cattle operation.
I don't know.
Wow.
But that's part of what we do here is try to bring awareness to that, because we have entire families, long-term best friends. We have dads. We all think that a mother and her child, we fight as vegans and as activists, we fight for our mothers and children not to be separated. But we've got dads here that are just as important in the raising of these guys. You've seen the mayor with Miley, with his little girl. It's his favorite little girl. Yeah. And, when they settle down at night, they've got their children by them. The boys do. So that's an opportunity that we have here that not everybody does.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we can't rescue because I inherited big, but it's something that it's not easy to do. It's very intrusive sometimes to go video grief like that and emotion like that, but you never know who it's gonna it might affect and might learn something.
I mean, just hearing that story, I mean, emotionally, I'm sitting here and I've heard it before, and you know, it just hits me that it makes me want to just break down and cry, because I've seen that connection. I understand it. I've experienced it, and I've allowed myself to make that connection with them, to see them as individuals, to see them as sentient beings, and see how they interact with one another, whether it be father and son, or whether it be a mother and son. Like I've seen that. So if people would let go of the misconceptions they have and just see them for individuals, see them for sentient beings, like just like you would your dog or your cat, I think more people would be readily able to make that connection sooner. But we'll keep trying.
We'll keep trying.
Yes, we will.
We will.
So, man, that just that's heavy. But one of the things you and I talked about before we got started is that your story didn't start here in Tennessee. You started in LA, and some of the things that you went through in LA and in California are kind of what drove you to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about this as much or as little as you like. I think it's important for folks to understand that the determination you have today. So Rick and Randie had 10 acres that they had to fence in, and Rick is 6'4", and how tall are you?
4'11" and a half.
So I think you might be squeezing that half in, but
it is important.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about this fence project that you all did, and most people probably can't even grasp the idea of fencing in 10 acres, to what goes into that. Rick, when I pulled up, Rick was right behind me, and he wanted to show me the pasture.
I knew it.
I jumped right on the gator with him, and we went around, and he showed me, and all of the work that you did. And, most people probably don't grasp that, but the determination to get things like that done, because that's what needs to be done, is kind of why Cows Come Home is here, because you had that determination to continue to work with Rick and work him through that connection until he finally made that connection and was able to give the cows to the sanctuary. That's why you're here, but unfortunately that's not what led you to come here.
Right.
So if you would share what you feel comfortable sharing with the domestic violence that you went through. Fortunately, everyone knows the ending of the story is that you're here today. You're with us for us to love and hug and share these, sentient beings with. Some people aren't as lucky to escape that nightmare, and Rick's coming in. So we'll.
Give us a few minutes. Okay.
We'll.
Speaking of Rick.
You're speaking of Rick. What are the things that you went through? Because not everyone is often able to escape that. And, having never experienced that myself, I don't know if there are things that still bother you on the daily. Because I know some people that they still have, if they've been through that type of experience, that they still have things that bother them. So, obviously, we see you and love you for who you are and the things that you do and provide for the animals. But what was your experience in California and your life before moving to Tennessee that led you to come here?
Well, I was born on a Marine base near San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
We lived there about 3 years, and my parents' families lived in Kentucky. So we moved to Kentucky for 20 years. But I was always, I'm not from here. And as soon as I get old enough, I'm moving back home. So that was my goal from the time I am aware of anything, was to get back to California. Well, I met a guy who was dying to move to Los Angeles, and we were together. We got together, and off we went. So what I didn't realize, because he was very smart and worldly and um, knew all the right things to say.
Yeah.
And he was kind and wonderful and just everything. Um, but what I didn't realize as soon as we left there and headed back to California, um, he showed his true colors and he was an awful nightmare. Well, first off, we moved to Hawaii, so we
That's a
sold
move.
everything, moved to Hawaii. I am sitting on my suitcase with all my worldly goods in the Honolulu airport, and that's when I discovered that he was a madman. So now it becomes a rock. It's not Hawaii and it's not this dream vacation or this dream
Yeah.
place. We're going to live here. And I realized I just married a man. So from there, we stayed there for close to a year and then moved to LA. And it continued and it continued for 16 years. We were together. But anybody that's been involved in a situation like this or knows anyone that's been involved in it, first question is, why'd you stay? Well, when you're convinced that your animals are going to die, your parents could die, your best friends are going to die, you are going to die for sure. It's not that easy. And, at one point, we got a pet pig. I mean, I'd had dogs and things like, other animals. But when I got this pet pig, you've got something that is so close to being like a little human that it's like, whoa, this is like on a totally different level of weird. And how do you take care of somebody like this? You can't put a pig in a car and just like, I'm out of here and go find shelter or something, because it's not going to happen. So as this escalated over the years, it got to a point where it was getting more and more violent, and I was more and more convinced that I was going to die, and he was telling me I was going to. And I had, at some point, the fear and anxiety had crippled me to a point where I physically couldn't move.
Yeah.
I couldn't function. I couldn't sit or stand, or it was just, I was helpless. I was helpless, and I was in a situation that I was not ever going to escape from, but I couldn't let my animals die. I couldn't, he didn't hurt them. He never hurt them, but watching him hurt their mom was killing them. It was crippling them like it was me. So I had to do for them what I could not do for myself, which was get out, because I didn't want them to see me die. So I called my best friend, who lived about 80 miles away, and told her, I'm going to die tonight. You've got to come help me. Well, not everybody can take a pig, and in Southern California and in Orange County, you don't just move a pig into a house that they were renting, and they were under obligation to not have pets like that. But they opened their home to me, and they had several daughters living there, but they knew that it was a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
So another friend came and loaded up the pig and the dog and what I thought was important to get out of there while he was at work, and dropped me off at a grocery store, and they met me at a grocery store and got me to the next place. And I lived with them for several months, and my sister lived in Tennessee. She lived in Sevierville. So I had to put some big distance between us for safety purposes, and I wound up moving here. So that's how I wound up here. And then about 6 years later, my electricity got shut off. It's a long story that we don't need to talk about. But my electricity got shut off because my bank account got defrauded and was cleaned out. And a friend gave me cash to pay to get my electricity turned back on. And while my second pig and I are sitting on my deck just wishing we could just go to California, and I didn't understand why I was here. I mean, I literally was going, I've got no idea why I'm here. Can I just not go home?
Yeah.
Can I just go home? I don't know why I'm here. The electric company truck pulls up and this big old country boy gets out and yeah. So, and then he met the rabbit and he met the dog, and that was the end of that. I mean, he met the pig, I'm sorry. I didn't have a dog at the time. He met the rabbit, then he met the pig, and, we talked about animals for about 40 minutes, and then 2 years later we got married. And I find myself on this cattle farm, which, by then it's like, I don't eat cows. I don't eat cows and I don't eat pigs. I hadn't 100% made the connection yet, but I knew I didn't eat them.
Yeah.
So finding myself on a cattle farm was not a cool thing.
No, I can imagine. And
so how are you going to fix this? And so that was my next mission. It's like, okay, I fled a madman. I could do that. I can figure this out.
I can figure this country boy out. I can fix him.
Definitely figure this out.
He, I enjoy sitting down and talking to Rick, and just, I could just listen to him talk all day. So, it's just awesome to hear about the story and transition. I'm sorry for the things that you've gone through. I wish that people didn't have to go through those things. I'm glad that you had friends that cared enough to do anything they could do for you.
I sure did.
And thank God for them, because you were in a situation that was going to end poorly for you. And so I'm glad that you. I hate that you had to go through that, but I'm glad that you made it to Tennessee, and that that somebody stole your bank account and Rick came to your door one day. So I'm glad you guys are here nonetheless.
Here we are.
Here we are. So what was it for you that finally helped you make that last connection? Because obviously you had an affinity for animals. You didn't eat cows and pigs. And what was it for you? So since we're talking about how it all began, what was it for you that helped you make that final, like, you know what? If I'm not doing this, this, and this, why am I doing any of this?
In East Tennessee, I'm sure it's all over Tennessee, we've got a lot of chicken trucks that back and forth, back and forth. I would be on my way back from Knoxville to Jefferson City on my commute to and from work, and I would always be behind these guys and feathers flying everywhere, and occasionally you'd see somebody that just what, dying is easier than what I'm about to go through. And I just saw one too many. I forced myself to look, because it's like I have to make this connection, because this doesn't make sense, and I have to stop eating all animals, because I love chickens.
Yeah.
Rick's got a couple of chickens running around. He always did, and I love them. But it's there's no explanation for it, except I had to make myself make that connection. Let's get it over with. You're gonna make that connection, and this is done. So.
And then you're not supporting those industries anymore. And I don't know what's worse, seeing a full truck full of animals knowing where they're headed, or seeing an empty truck knowing that animals were on and where they've been.
And you see the filth and the
it's just
horror of it all. It's just in the heat. They're hauling them in this heat.
Oh yeah, people don't realize that. So when you talk about
disgusting
pigs, they can be transported up to 36 hours in these hot trucks that it's over 100 degrees in there. No water, no food, no nothing other than their own filth. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. And to treat animals the way they're treated in the first place is, awful. Let alone when you tack on the way we treat them to send them to their death, it's like insult to injury. So I wish more people would see that, make that connection. When you see those trucks, when you see those transport trucks, look at the individuals inside those trucks. Look at them for the individuals that they are, and ask yourself, do I really want to support what they're going through? I think that's probably a simple way for some folks to look at it. And if the answer is no, like you force yourself to make that connection to stop supporting it. So.
Sure. Because we make that connection with, somebody as big as a cow
Mhm.
or a pig. We just okay, they're they're cute and they're this and they're fuzzy and they're all these different things, and um, you know they're easy to make that connection. Um, I don't know. I didn't have the opportunity to just like really get in there and look them in the eyes,
Sure.
but when you do, how do you deny that? It's just like when I looked at one of the older cows over at Rick's house, for the first time, because I would just like, I can't look. I can't, I can't connect.
Yeah, can't get attached.
I can't get attached because I can't do anything about it. But when I did, there was an older girl over there that she was in my face. He took another one. He took another one. He took another one. And I just got really attached to her, and I looked in her eyes, and the fear and the pain of, can somebody stop this? You got to stop this. And in that moment of standing there with that girl, where she's looking at me trying to tell me something, I've been there.
Mhm.
I've been in situations where I'm looking at people going, you gotta help me, but I can't speak it out loud. You've got to help me. And I can't look at her and deny that that's what she's asking me to do. So that was where the determination to turn this around. But it also, you got to go look in their eyes. You got to look in everybody's eyes. And
To sum that up that way, to feel that the way you're telling me, that you looked in her eyes and that you could see yourself asking for help.
you can't deny it. They're
No.
all asking for help. You pass those trailers and they're looking, you see these eyes peeking through there and they're asking you for help. And it's like, I sat in a truck at a red light and looked at people, and I can't say it out loud, but just look.
Yeah. Wow.
Follow me home or do something, but you got to help me.
I don't know how to get people to take the blinders off to look. Most people, I think if they look, they won't like what they see and they'll start making changes. So I really appreciate you sharing that part of your story, because it's not easy to talk about. It's not easy to share that the things that you've been through. So I really appreciate you for sharing that, because no doubt at some point someone's going to hear this that is either in that situation today, or someone will be in that situation in the future, unfortunately. And hopefully hearing this story, hearing your story, will help them find that strength and to find that friend or to find that anyone who will help them get out of the situation. So I really appreciate that. You and I got connected through a mutual friend. Mindy reached out to me. She said, hey, she knew that I worked on computers and you were just getting things started with Cows Come Home. And I'm going to be full transparent. You had everything probably 98% done. You didn't really need me, but you needed some help. And so then we were put in contact, and our friendship has started from there. So I played like that big of a role. Like, I mean, in getting your website, because you were done. Like, you had a couple things that need straightening up. That's it. But now you have something else that you're getting ready to put out there, and it's more of an online store, so people can find Cows Come Home and help support the organization to help feed these cows. You want to tell folks what you guys have going on, what you intend this to be, or your plan for this online store?
Well, it's going to start out small. We have our several T-shirt designs that we don't go through Bonfire or any of those sort of organizations. I have them on hand, so I have maybe 3 or 4 designs. Some other things that I'm adding. I'm going to try to add more from time to time, just to sort of supplement.
Sure.
Economy's bad right now. Everyone's hurting. It's tight. I'm not good at fundraising or asking for help. I just despise it, and a lot of
Sure.
us do. Um, but hay is extraordinarily expensive this year. It's so much more than it was any other year.
Yeah, everything
Everything is. And when you have all these big guys to feed, I've got no small bellies; they're all big bellies. And so we're trying to, keep the hay rolling in.
Sure.
And so this is just going to supplement
Okay.
that by adding our T-shirts and things, so people can order them, right there and get them sent right out right away.
Okay.
So yeah. So when I found out you were coming to Tennessee, I was right at that moment at I need to talk to somebody. I mean, we were just on the phone. I was just talking to my sister and to Sharon, our mutual friend, that I've got to find somebody that knows something about computers because I'm like dead in the water.
Well,
So,
we'll be happy to take a look
what?
at that and see if I can, do that a little bit again. I think that also highlights the importance. Small sanctuaries, they don't have the large followings, so they don't have the large donation. I don't want to say train, but when you have a large following, you have a larger base of folks who tend to donate and tend to help. You may even have some celebrity backing, but small sanctuaries don't have that, especially sanctuaries in the middle of Talbot, Tennessee. So,
Where?
right? Exactly. Most people are probably never heard of Talbot, Tennessee. But I think it's important. So if you're listening to this and you have a sanctuary that's close to you, that's local to you, that's important, make sure you're supporting them. Find out what they need. They may need volunteers. They may need help. Maybe someone needs help with their website. Maybe they need donations. Maybe they need, there's different ways that you can help other than just donating when things are tight. But there are so many sanctuaries out there. It's just like Red Oak Animal Rescue, Wendy. She told me to give you a hug. We rescued a goat that we took down to her, and we spent probably a couple hours, and she told us some of her story and some of the things she's been through, and showed us some of the animals that she has there, and it's those small sanctuaries that are all across the country, and frankly, they're all across the world that they may be in your own backyard and people may not know it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have the same hay bills. You have the same, medical needs when the animals need help. You have the same responsibilities to these animals that you are taking care of and need help when you can. Mm-hmm. So I hope folks will check out the online store when it's up. I hope they will check out Cows Come Home. Where all can folks find the Cows Come Home?
Well, we have our website, which is cowscomehome.org. We're on Facebook, Cows Come Home Farm Sanctuary, and Cows Come Home Sanctuary on Instagram. And I don't know how it got all different like that, but it did.
Well, and that's one of the things. So let's see, what is it? I think mine is The Vegan Sheepdog everywhere except for Twitter. It's just Vegan Sheepdog. So I decided to, I've done nothing with my Twitter account. So everything, some of the platforms have different character length limits. So I'm sure that's where that's spurred from, because that drives me crazy when I look at it. So.
But I can't remember it either.
Well, no, it's. I would encourage everyone to check out Cows Come Home, whether you're on Facebook or Instagram, or check them out on the web. See if there's something you can do to help them. If there's something that speaks to you, if there's some other residents here that speak to you and you want to help support them, that would be much appreciated. I still can't get over that you and Rick fenced in 10 acres.
I know, it's crazy. But
knowing you two the way I do, I'm not shocked that you two did it. It's just, that's a lot of frickin' work.
It was.
That's just how you two roll, and you guys are going to do what you have to do. And but if we can do something to help ease that burden a little bit, we'd love to do so. So, as always, don't ever hesitate to reach out. We'll be happy to. We'll bring
Rick wants to say
we'll bring Rick in here too. No, you don't apologize to me. Rick, we've been talking about you for the last hour, so we'll Rick will sneak in here just a minute. And he can just pull up a chair next to Randy if he wants. This is like a
Here, sit here.
bonus. So we were, we talked about the mayor and talked about, how 6'4" Tennessee boy, just finally let his emotions out and said, "All right."
Whipped out, huh?
Ain't nothing wimpy about that. Standing up for others and putting yourself before others is definitely not a win.
Well, I'll say it's something we enjoy.
Yeah.
We enjoy spending time with them, and they enjoy us just as much. Like I've said 100 times, somebody would just have to go out there and do it to get the feeling we get. I mean, you go out there and lay down and hug on a big 2,000-pound bull. There's not a better feeling to me than nothing. I mean, complete trust and love. We enjoy it.
We really appreciate what you guys do, and
Thank you.
we want to do anything we can do to help y'all. So you just keep us posted what y'all need, and we'll continue to do what we can. And maybe we'll have to find ourselves down in Tennessee a little more often than once a year.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be. So, well, we'll wrap this episode up, and we'll continue on. But I hope everyone will take the time to check out the Cows Come Home Farm Sanctuary. You can check them out on Facebook, Instagram, check out their website, and check out their store if you want to support some of their merch. If you want to support some of their residents, we would really appreciate that. I really want to thank you guys for opening up your homes and your hearts to us. It just means the world to us, and we think a lot of y'all, and really appreciate what you guys do.
Well, we think a lot of you all. Appreciate everything. We really do.
Yeah, we appreciate everything you do.
I mean,
That you and Becky do, and your whole family, and we love you guys and love hanging out with you here, and the cows, obviously.
Yeah, they hate
Really?
they hate when we come visit.
They do hate it.
We
They
bring
just-
somebody for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, cows that don't normally ever remember nubbins. I mean, she was kind of a standoffish, kind of like that,
She
but
walks
just
right up to
walked right
Becky.
up. Yeah.
Or Brady out there with big old Kong. Kong just loved him, and there's something. It's funny. There's something like so. Brady is he's 14 now, but he's typical boy. Usually bounce off the walls, just being himself. But there's something that is calming about him too. We've seen him around horses that other people will be like, oh, don't go near that horse.
Mm-hmm.
And Brady will go over there, and that horse will be just as calm as can be, and it's just
You can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell.
So I love
really
that our kids have made that connection, and they enjoy coming out here, petting on the cows and loving on them. So
Well, we'll do that later this week.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, you all have a good one. If you guys need anything, you guys know how to find anything on my account, but make sure you guys go check out and support Cows Come Home Farm Sanctuary. We really appreciate what they do, and I appreciate sitting down, Randie sharing her story, and if something you guys can do to help them, try to reach out and do so. You guys have a good one. I'm out.